Hello and welcome back to another how-to paint tutorial. Last time we did some salamanders. This time, instead of doing more Space Marines, I figured I'd break it up a little bit and we'd knock out some Tau stealth battlesuits. I picked up the Combat Patrol recently and I've got a ton of Tau models to do, but I figured we'd start out with kind of the cooler looking ones. So hopefully they turn out pretty good. We are going to start out with a nice base of Gray Seer. And as a disclaimer, because I once forgot to mention it and someone kind of yelled at me in the comments, I already have done a nice layer of Vallejo surface primer. It's very cheap on Amazon. If you literally just search that, you'll find it. It's technically for airbrushes, but I find it works perfectly with just brushing it with normal paintbrushes as well. So without further ado, we are going to dive right into this. And of course, you can't really see it because I do it off camera a little bit. There we go. I am mixing in just a little bit of water to make sure our first layer is nice and thin. And it's actually almost a little bit hard to tell that I'm even applying it because the colors are so similar. But we are going to get a nice coverage of pretty much everywhere that we're able to reach. And it doesn't have to be perfect. This isn't going to be our main kind of coat, but we do want to get as good a job as possible because if we mess up with our next layer, which will be our kind of main base, it's going to shine through. If we kind of miss anything on the next layer and we've missed something on the undercoat, it's going to look glaringly obvious, and I really don't want that. So kind of do your best to cover as much as you can without kind of overlapping too much. You don't, excuse me, you don't want to build up too much paint if you can avoid it. So if you can, cover an area the first time around and you don't have to go back over it in the future, it's kind of nice. So make sure you really get into all these little nooks and crannies. And of course, being a Tau model, they have tons of them. More than Space Marines, at least. So that is for sure. Now, I will say the normal like box art kind of color scheme for these guys is kind of like white, black, and red, I think. I'm going to kind of mix that up a little bit. We're going to keep the white and black, but instead of red, I'm going to be using blue. And I have a blue picked out. It's kind of bright though. Unfortunately, it's not exactly the perfect color I want, but it's the closest I have. So if it's too bright, I'm going to try a different one. But we're not doing red. Sometimes I follow the base color schemes. Sometimes I break it up a little bit. And I figure this time will be just a little bit adventurous with it. But that is going to be for probably another episode. I think today is going to be all undercoat, and hopefully we can get started on that base coat. I also have a couple of whites that I can use. A quick spoiler, I will be doing Corax white as kind of our primary. If that doesn't look good, we will change it up. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm still kind of getting over a cold. Sometimes my throat does get a little bit clogged, unfortunately. I'm right on the back end of it, though. Hopefully, the next episode or two, I will be clean from this horrible virus. The great plague of Nurgle has definitely affected me in the past week or so. But I'm on the back end of it. I'm hopefully going to be in the clear very soon. I hope. I kind of thought I was going to be done the other day, and it just came back twice as strong. So I'm not holding my breath anytime soon. But, and actually, just I'm about to say that I'm finished. There's a huge spot on the top we didn't get. So we'll knock that out real quick. And there we are. Now we're finished with that one. That's our undercoat done. Of course, we're going to have to come back and do the next layer, but for now that's done. We're going to knock out these other two. And I also have this little drone back here, if it could focus for just a minute. It also comes with a little piece of terrain, this specific squad, but it's kind of dinky, and honestly it's just going to take up time that I really don't want to waste. So I'm not going to worry about that. Maybe if we have time with like the final episode or something, I'll throw it in as like a quick little extra. But honestly, it's kind of small enough. I'm probably not going to bother painting it in general. I don't play like 40K on tabletop. I want to. I just don't because I'm not a social person. If that's surprising, I don't know. You know, um, but I kind of have no use for it. I think it's like an objective marker, or maybe it's like a squad buff thing. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with the rules of Tau, so I'm not gonna worry about it. Um, maybe sometime in the future, if I get really bored, I'll knock it out real quick. But not my biggest concern. I will say, however, my biggest concern at the moment is these brushes I'm using. I'm actually kind of running low. If you've seen any of my other videos, I talk about it kind of sporadically. I just use really cheap brushes from like Amazon and like dollar stores and stuff. Um, I know some people are very peculiar about their brushes, and I can kind of see why. Um, but I don't really treat my brushes nice enough to get like really nice expensive ones. So instead, I get these really cheap ones. And I have a really big collection of them. Most of them are kind of trash though. And I've discovered this recently because I've been using like the same three brushes for like the past, I don't know, 15 videos now. And I had to look for this one. It's a size 5. I was using a size 0 and a size 2. And unfortunately, I think this is like the kind of biggest brush I have that I can use realistically. Like I've got some massive ones for like vehicle painting and stuff. Um, but in terms of just like painting individual units, I think this is the largest one I have. Uh, I don't know how like large they go size wise, but like a size 7 or 8 maybe would have been nice for this. But I don't have that. So I have to order some more brushes to add to my overwhelming pile. I actually, and I will say this with a slight disclaimer, I don't support Temu. uh, I know they have some like alleged bad practices, and you know they're linked to China and everything. So you know that's usually the case, but I'm not gonna go into it too much. So I will just say that you know, do your own research. But I use Temu because it's cheap and efficient for me. They had like a deal on brushes, much like they do everything on that website. Um, but it was like 100 brushes for like $3. And I was so excited, I almost got them. But then I looked and I realized they were all the exact same size, and it didn't say what size they were. It kind of looked like they were all size 0, which is cool, but I already have a couple size 0s, so 100 of them wouldn't have really done me much good. I don't go through them that much. But I did manage to find there was like a 30 pack, and there's 3 different sizes in it. There's 10 of each, and it was like the same price. So that'll be arriving in my mail hopefully soon. So then we'll have more brushes to destroy horribly. But that's pretty much all I really have going on in the background. I've got some other stuff lined up Warhammer wise. There's a bunch of goblins that I still want to paint from the Age of Sigmar set. Maybe I don't know what it was called. Um, Maybe it was like the Dominion box. I don't know. It was a bunch of the Thundercast, Stormcast Eternals, whatever you call them. I don't know. I'm not too big into the whole fantasy thing, but I do have a Stormcast army, so there you go. Um, but I painted all of these Stormcast models already, unfortunately, before I started doing videos, so we won't be having any of those for a while. But I still have like 50 goblins that I have not touched, and at some point in the future, I would like to paint them. I ordered like 6 shades of green specifically to paint them, and I still just have not done it. I've been meaning to do it for weeks, but with being sick and in between doing all these other things, I just really haven't had time for it. So at some point in the future, I will be doing more fantasy stuff. I was also looking at some of the spearhead boxes, I think they're called, Spearhead, Vanguard, I don't know. They're like the fantasy equivalent to Combat Patrol. And I really like I think they're called the Flesh Eater Courts. They're basically vampires, but they're not called vampires now for some reason. I don't know. I don't really like the change up they did when they went from the fantasy to the current age of whatever it's called. I think it's Age of Sigmar. I don't know. I'm so out of the loop with it that I don't even know what the game is called anymore. All I know is 40k, but it's definitely something I do want to get into a little bit more, especially as I continue painting for this channel, because it's a good source of content. They have a literal ton of models from what I've seen, so I definitely want to get into it at some point. I also have some Skaven I need to paint at some point. I know I have a plague claw catapult that I need done. I still need to even assemble it. And I also have some storm vermin I need to finish painting, so maybe we'll also take a look at that. As well as the big dudes, like the big mutant rats. I forget what they're called, but I have a couple of them that I haven't touched yet. So we might do that in the future. Hopefully. If I get around to it, ever. I promise we'll do the goblins first, though. Unless you guys like overwhelmingly want to see Skaven for some reason. And let me do another coat of that, just because I don't think it really went on too thickly. And next we'll be able to get onto our base coat, which is great. I didn't know if we were going to be quick enough to kind of knock that out this first episode. But thankfully, with this size 5 brush, we are just tearing through it. So we'll let that dry a little bit, and I'll close up my gray sear so it doesn't dry out on us. And I actually will have to give this a little bit of a shake because I haven't used this Corax white in a hot minute. So give me just a second on that. The lighter colors kind of like to separate the pigment when you're not using them, so you want to be a little bit careful with that. But it looks like it's nice and mixed up now. Make sure I have just a little bit of water in my brush, and I'll even show you as we kind of add it to the palette here. Just really glob it on. It is pretty thin. You can kind of see the bubbles in it. Maybe. Hopefully. I don't know how well the resolution will be, but there you are. And we're just going to apply this right on top of that gray sear, basically all over. The only thing I really don't want to get is kind of the legs and the underside of the arms. Those are going to be black, so there's really no point to doing the white base coat with them. I really kind of even debated with myself doing the gray sear all over, but I figured just to make sure we kind of got a solid base coat, or a solid undercoat at least everywhere, that we would do that first. And real quick, we'll knock out shoulders. I'm still kind of debating how I'm going to divide up everything else that's not going to be black, because traditionally, I think with the box art, again, there's only a little bit of red mixed in, like the antenna, which only this guy has because I think they look kind of dumb. And then a little bit like on the guns and the arms and stuff. But I want to do a lot of blue. I really want to give this guy a lot of kind of detailed definition in him. So I don't know how I'm going to break it up yet, but I definitely want to have a solid mix of both. And hopefully it turns out pretty good. If not, whatever. We'll just cover it all back up again, I guess. But hopefully that's not going to be the case. I also quickly mentioned it there, but I'll kind of dive into it a little bit. So all three of these models are meant to have little antennas on them, and then also there was like a little thing that goes on their backpack. I don't know whether it was meant to be like another little drone or what, but they look kind of dumb, and honestly they didn't fit on too well. I don't know whether these are the newest stealth battlesuit models or not. The sprue was from like 2005, which was when I was a very small lad. But they weren't even like numbered or anything. So it's kind of like looking at a Lego instructional, trying to put them together. Oops, as I drop them right onto my horribly dirty desk mat. So much paint has gone onto it. But yeah, I couldn't get them to like go on, and they look dumb. So I only did the one antenna, and I just kind of left it all alone. I think it kind of looks better without all of it, honestly. Much less distracting, at least. And one more quick layer on the shoulders, and I think we'll move on to the next one. I just don't really have to want to go back and forth with doing this base coat, but fortunately, with the way that it dries, that is kind of the reality that we're in. But we'll call that semi done for now. At least with that white. Of course, we're not done with it entirely yet. Once we get the blue on there, then we're really gonna have fun. Also with the black as well. The problem with that is that if we're sloppy with the black at all, it's gonna suck to clean up because going from a light color to a dark color, super easy. Going from a dark color to a light color is an actual pain. I do not envy my future self because I'm almost certain that's something that I'm gonna have to be dealing with. So we'll stay strapped in for that, and hopefully it's not as big of an issue as I think it's gonna be. We are kind of tearing through this pretty quickly though, so I think we'll talk about a little bit of the lore. Now, spoilers, I don't know anything about Tau lore. I know like the bare minimum. Tau are considered like the good guys in the galaxy, quote unquote, and I kind of have my own little like headcanon about that. Basically, to really simplify them, they're space communists, right? Everything they do is for the quote unquote greater good. And I believe that is meant to be like the greater good for the galaxy, but I feel like it's a pretty selfish greater good. It's mainly they view themselves as being right and everyone else is wrong with their ideologies, right? And I think that more kind of leans into the official lore, but where my headcanon comes in with them being the quote unquote good guys. Because every like civilization, except for like Tyranids, were at one point kind of good, quote unquote. Even humanity during like the initial, like before the Age of Strife and everything, they were good. If you want to say that. Same thing with like the Eldar before they became Drukhari and everything. So I think Tau is kind of in that stage. Like they're just not old enough to be corrupt yet. Like they're not. It's like the Imperium. Even during like the Great Crusade, right up until the heresy, they were considerably better than they are now in the current age, 10,000 years later. And I think Tau is kind of like in that pre-heresy kind of like crusade era where they're kind of they rapidly advanced and they're enjoying the fruits of that, right? Like their population is in kind of their golden age. But as they kind of get older and as they spread out across the galaxy, I feel like corruption is going to be more of a thing, and not even like from chaos, just inherently like normal like greed and whatnot, as the Imperium suffers from. So that's kind of my headcanon on it. I've read very little about them. I have seen them in the Caiaphas Cain novels. I know about the Kroot being like cannibals and stuff. And I know there's like a couple of different castes of warriors. There's like the water caste. There's the fire caste. I know they have like advanced plasma technology, which is kind of funny because the Imperium's been trying to figure it out for literally ever now, and they still can't. But Tau just rocks up after being born essentially, and they're just like, hey, we have working plasma guns. They don't explode in our face. So there you go. That's literally all of the Tau lore that I know. And as I kind of finish up, next time we will do our little drone here, and then our other battle suit with our base coat. But I do just want to shout out real quick, as we hit the end of our video, I have a Patreon. If you guys want to support this channel and like what I do and want to see more videos more often, which this will allow me to do, please consider supporting that. It would mean the world to me. And I want to say that regardless of whether anyone contributes to that, I will keep making videos. But models are expensive. So, you know, I'm kind of buying this with my own capital, and that significantly slows down like how many models I can get at a time. And that in turn goes into how many tutorials I can do in a timely manner. So consider that if you enjoy it. I'll do more often. Other than that, of course, feel free to leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. My email is also now in the link in the description. If you guys want to reach out to me, whether it's like a question you don't want to ask in the comments, or whether it's like commissions, I'm open to that as well. Or even just suggestions. Let me know if I'm doing something wrong. Whatever. But with that being said, I want to thank you guys very much for watching. It really means a lot to me. And hopefully, I will see you in the next episode.